first most important news, which is the launch of Ayushman Bharat scheme. So you must have read a lot about Ayushman Bharat scheme. You must be aware of the key features and all. My focus would not be on explaining key features, but my focus would be on explaining the significance, the important areas, and the challenges which will take place or which will be there in implementing the scheme, and the solutions we require to ensure that Ayushman Bharat scheme becomes a success. So let us start with the key feature of the scheme. So Ayushman Bharat, as you know, in India, we have two sectors: primary health sector and the secondary health sector, secondary and tertiary. So for primary health care, it means that if you have common cold, if you have stomach upset, you go to a proper small dispensary where you get yourself treated. In secondary and tertiary, when you have big diseases like dengue, like heart, like cancer, all these big diseases, when you go to the secondary and tertiary sector. In India, the primary sector is really bad. Most of them are in small areas. You have no doctors there. I can tell you about my village. In my village, in the primary healthcare center, there is the what you call as Hakim of the village. He sits as a doctor. He has no degree, but he treats everyone with everything. So, and I think it's the same in most of the villages. That primary healthcare sector is really bad in India. Secondary and tertiary care sector, it depends. So there are some private hospitals which are really expensive, but they treat you well. Then there's government hospitals where the treatment is really bad. So Ayushman scheme will focus on both primary and tertiary, because see, the primary healthcare sector is very important, because if you don't treat them in the initial stages, their case would then go to secondary and tertiary care, and that is expensive. So if you want to reduce the health expenditure in India, you have to strengthen the primary healthcare sector. That is what the experts are saying, and that is also common sense. So for primary healthcare sector, Ayushman Bharat scheme has health and wellness centers. So there would be 150,000 health and wellness centers, which will be established in cities and in villages, and that will be the first area of interaction. I mean, if you have small problem, you go to the health and wellness sector, and the idea of the scheme is that they will be revamped. So this is technically nothing but what you call as primary healthcare center. They would be revamped, infrastructure would be improved. There will be better doctors there. They would be, it will ensure that there is proper doctor and nurse and a team in that health and wellness centers. For the other people, for secondary and tertiary healthcare sector, it talks of insurance. So anybody who has a major disease, they can get himself admitted in the hospitals, and the government will pay the government will pay the premium or anything. If it's a trust model, government will bear the cost for the treatment. So you have health and wellness center for the primary health care, and you have insurance for the secondary sector. So now let's look at the significance of the scheme. Also, under the scheme, those secondary and tertiary centers which will provide a very high quality of healthcare, they will get 10% more payment from the government. So idea is to allow these hospitals to give, because ultimately when they think that it's insurance model, we will not provide any service, ultimately government will pay us the same amount. But if they would be provided incentive that if you give us a better service, and they have to be accredited with NABH. So NABH is just like a NAC, You in education sector, you have NAC, NAAC, which gives this certificate to institutes A plus A, B plus B. In the same way, all the hospitals will be accredited with NAB, NABH, and they will give certificates to all these hospitals A plus A, B plus. So all these A plus hospitals, they would be given 10% extra, what you call 10% extra compensation for treating the patients. So let us understand the significance of the scheme. So first significance would be that it is the world's largest government funded program. So it is much bigger than Obamacare. It is much bigger than Merkel Care. It is called as Modi Care, and it nowhere in the world 50 crore people would be given free healthcare by the government, because ultimately it's not possible anywhere else except China probably, because nobody has 50%, or no country has 50 crore of population. Second significance of the scheme is that it incentivizes good performance. Like what I have told earlier, that the hospitals performing well will get more kind of compensation. Third is that it will create awareness about health insurance. So just like what Jandhan was able to do for financial literacy, this will work in terms of health literacy, because as you know, in India, the data says that around 85% rural households and 82% urban households, they don't have any insurance. That is why we need this Ayushman Bharat scheme. And the government has earlier, the scheme was Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. The scheme covered all the people from the unorganized sector, but it just had a coverage of 18 crore people, and the maximum compensation which the government paid, or the health insurance which the government provided, was just 30,000 rupees. Ayushman Bharat will cover 50 crore people, and it will provide health insurance of 5 lakh rupees per family. So it's a significant improvement over the Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana scheme. Next is it will generate jobs. So you need more healthcare workers, you need more doctors, more nurses, more compounders, all these things. It will create enough jobs in the economy, and healthcare sector is a very job intensive sector, so it can also solve the problem of the jobless growth that we face. Next is it will enhance productivity. So I have actually told this thing many times, that economy requires healthy workforce and educated workforce and skilled workforce. Without these, the workforce will not be productive. So this will ensure that the workforce is healthy in India, and since it will be healthy in India, it will somehow kind of increase the productivity. Next is it will reduce poverty in India, and that is very common, because one of the reasons why we have more number of poor is because of the healthcare expenditure. Many families, if you see around, they sell their land, they sell their houses to get the near ones or the relatives treated, and it is an out of pocket expenditure is one of the main reason why we have this problem of poverty. Now let's come to the main point, which is challenges to Pradhan Mantri Ayushman Bharat scheme. First and most important challenge is mere allocation. So rupees 2,000 crores have been allocated for Ayushman Bharat this year, and government is saying that we will increase the amount to 10,000 crores next year. But even 10,000 crore is very insufficient, because what experts are saying, that you require at least 60 to 70,000 crores of money to fund this program, because you are insuring 50 crore people. 50 crore people, right? And there would be a lot of people who will use the insurance. If you have this much budget, then you will not pay the insurance, you will not provide compensation to the hospitals, you will not provide compensation to the insurance companies, and they will withdraw from the scheme. There will be no insurance company who will be willing to do that. There will be no hospital who would be willing to do anything. And in that case, what will happen? In that case, the poor will go to government hospital, because private hospital will say that government is not providing us compensation on time, we don't want to be part of the scheme. You cannot force it. It's not China, it's not North Korea, it's a democracy, right? You can't force the private sector to enroll in the scheme. They would think that we are not getting paid right amount, and we are not getting the money on time, we don't want to be part of the scheme. The government is actually, even now also, it's free for the poor people. So ultimately it will have no benefit until and unless you provide enough funds for it. 2000 crore, even 10,000 crore is insufficient for it, very insufficient. I mean, even the budget of Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana was bigger than 2000, and you had just provided compensation for 30,000 rupees in that scheme, and you just covered 18 crore people in that scheme. In this scheme, you are covering 50 crore people, and you are providing 5 lakh rupees compensation to each of them. Next is, there is unknown financial cost of the program. So see, insurance companies require this probability. They require government should have created database, in which database they would have included all these experts. They would have used the proper model of insurance, and then they would have provided, okay, this much should be the premium which the insurance company wants from the government. Because if the insurance company will get this much premium, it will be able to insure 50 crore people. But no such calculation has been done, and without such calculation, insurance company they have not been able to come with the amount of premium required for insuring 50 crore people. And without that, this scheme would not work on the ground, because without knowing the amount of premium, insurance companies will not agree for entering the scheme. Also, there is a risk of coverage erosion. So many experts are saying that because the fund allocated for this is so less, that what it will do is that it has happened in Thailand and one more or two other countries, that in such when such less money is allocated for the program, the hospitals will play smart. They will decide that, okay, these things are included, these things are not included, or in these things are included, but the visit of doctor is not included. So ultimately, because the hospitals have to sustain themselves, insurance companies have to sustain themselves, then they start playing some tricks, and when they start playing the tricks, it increases the out of pocket expenditure. You get admitted to hospital knowing that everything is free. Once you get admitted, you are shown with a place thing that, okay, these things are free, but these things are not covered in your package. You have to pay for that. When you are dying, you agree for everything, right? So that would increase and the biggest objective of Ayushman Bharat scheme is to reduce the out of pocket expenditure. But if this will happen, then that will make the scheme unworkable, and it will not be able to play the kind of impact it is, it's or what its objective is. Also, there are unviable treatment rates. So the draft package rates which are released, or the draft treatment package rates, they are the hospitals, the private hospitals don't seem happy for that, because the proposed cost for artery bypass is about 90,000 rupees, while the central government health scheme rate is 1.1 lakh rupees, and in private hospitals they charge 3 lakh rupees for this coronary artery bypass. So the private hospitals charge 3 lakh and you are paying them 90,000 rupees. It will have two outcomes. One is that they will not be willing to join all these Max and Apollos and the big hospitals, Fortises, they will not join the program, right? And if they join, they will probably give substandard treatment, because they know that they will get just 90,000 rupees from the government. So that will compromise with the healthcare provided to the patient. And if these people will not join it, then what is the use of the scheme? Because government के पास तो अभी भी hospital में free में ही होता है इलाज, right? Objective is that private hospitals will be impaneled under the scheme, and this poor will be able to go to private hospitals for the treatment. Next is implementation failure. I mean, see, okay, secondary is fine, but for primary healthcare sector, you have changed the name to Health and Wellness Center, right? The condition that we have right now, there is no doctor there, there is no nurse here. You have to open more medical colleges. You will, because otherwise, if you will not completely revamp, and for that you will have to increase the budget of healthcare. Without increasing the budget of the healthcare, the health and wellness sector will not change by itself. You will have to invest more in that. Only then health and wellness center will be able to they will be able to revamp. And health and wellness center is a very important component of this program, because without health and wellness sector, there will be greater burden on secondary and tertiary care sector. And secondary and tertiary care sector, as the government is just giving 2,000 crores for that. Right, and government has said that it will give 1,200 crores for revamping health and wellness sector. 12,000 or 1,200 crores is nothing. In a country like India, it is nothing. So government should, without these, there will be implementation failure. The government the scheme would look very good on paper, but it would completely fail on the ground. Next is flaws of insurer and trust model. So usually in this, when there's bidding among the insurance companies about the low rates that they will provide, low premium they will charge, generally it has happened that it leads to unviable rates of premium. So in Nagaland, it happened recently, where because of competition among the insurance companies, the lowest the insurance company provided was 400 rupees premium per year. And that is unviable for an insurance company to sustain itself, right? If we go for a trust model, in which we don't rely on insurance companies, we create a trust, the state government create a trust, and state government fills the money on the trust. The problem in trust model is that the trust model has been implemented in some states in India, but in that model, generally the hospitals are not happy with this model, because hospitals feel that there is a delay in providing compensation. So hospital will treat a patient and the cost of the treatment is 2 lakh rupees. Now state government does not release the amount on time. So probably, this 2 lakh rupees, the hospital will get after 1 year. So hospitals are not, if they will be trust model, hospitals will not be very, they would not actually join, because they know that there is a delay of payment. It's proper bureaucratic structure, it's proper bureaucratic model that takes place. So that is why the hospitals are also not very happy. So how can we make Ayushman scheme a success? First is we should use the PPP model. See, as I've told you that you require more hospitals, you require more number of beds to treat the people, right? So, and the government cannot do it alone. It does not have the capacity to do it alone. So you have to come in terms with the PPP model, build more hospitals, create more kind of more beds, because currently there are 13.5 lakh beds in India, and you require at least 40 lakh beds in India to treat 50 crore people, and that cannot come. The government cannot provide them all. So government need to use the PPP model in building more hospitals, and in the hospitals which are already there, create more number of beds. Next is cooperative federalism is needed. See, ultimately, health is a state subject, and state government has to implement the scheme on ground. So kind of states will need to take care. They need to be given some extra funds in the finance commission so that they can implement the scheme on the ground level. The South Indian states have the funds, but the problem lies with the Bimaru states. They have more prime priorities like ambulance for cows, temple. Also, they have very important priorities in their life. Health and education. These are non-issues for them. So they will have to be convinced by the central government that okay, ambulance for cow can wait, and Ram Mandir can wait. We should first kind of focus on health and education, because your kids and your future generation is lying. And it's a fact that the social indicators in Bimaru states is worse than Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. It's a shame for me. I also belong to these states. It's a shame for us that we are not focusing on health and education, and we are focusing on other nonsense things. Next is we require more medical colleges. So for health and wellness sector, for new hospitals, for new beds, you require more doctors. For new patients, you require more doctors. In India, the doctor to patient ratio is doctor to population ratio is very less compared to China and US, and this would increase it further. We require more doctors, so we need to create more medical colleges. We need to create more nursing colleges. We need to create more paramedical colleges, right? Next is more clarity and uniformity is needed. So more clarity is needed that what is included in the package and what is not included in the package, so that the insurance companies and hospitals don't exploit the poor patients, poor and illiterate patients. Also, we require a rate according to the kind of city. So in Delhi and in Bhilwara or in any other places in India, in small towns, the rate cannot be same, because you are paying doctor more in Delhi than you are paying in small city. So the rate of the treatment should be should take care of this thing, right? There should be no uniform rate in one city, or there's no uniform rate in India itself. Next is there is requirement of effective implementation and monitoring. So we need to create a separate wing in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and this would be an independent body which will plan, coordinate and provide technical inputs to the state, including the capacity building. It will also monitor the program, and it will give advices based on monitoring that these are the flaws in the program and we can do these kinds of improvements. So we need a separate independent body for that. Ultimately, my take on this scheme is that see, ultimately the government has to increase expenditure on health. We are spending 1.1% of GDP on health, which is one of the lowest in the world. So these schemes are good, but ultimately these schemes can only work when you at least triple the expenditure on health. At least 3% of your GDP should be spent on health. Only then schemes like this can work. Otherwise, it will not work on the ground. That is my perfect take on the scheme.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from Civil's Daily.